We've just concluded 5 days at the ICC annual conference in Dublin. A lot of the conversations this week have been around code of conduct and building a culture of respect in the game. Can you tell us what decisions were made in respect of both of those, please?
So we tried to deal with this issue from two angles. First of all, the code of conduct, which is applicable to player behaviour and squad members' behaviour on the field. And the board has sanctioned a couple of new offences and increased penalties, in particular now for ball tampering, or we call it changing the condition of the ball, contrary to the rules. They've increased the level of sanction from a level 2 to a level 3 offence, which means that a player can, if found guilty, be suspended for up to 6 test matches or 12 ODIs, depending on the order in which they come. So a significant increase in the level of penalty for that particular offence. The other main offence which has been introduced is one for personal abuse. So recognising that there is often banter on a cricket field, it's a long game and you can't be play the game in stony silence, but anything that involves personal abuse of somebody, again, can invoke a level 3 penalty, which is lengthy bans from the game.
And what about the culture of respect that you're very keen on bringing back to the game? Tell us a bit about that.
So apart from the on-field trying to deter players from poor behaviour, the Chief Executives Committee had a very good discussion on trying to create a culture of respect amongst the member boards and, of course, their respective teams. So when you are hosting a touring team, make sure that you provide them with facilities, enable them to prepare for matches, the equivalent of at least the same standard that the home team will get. So engender a spirit of respect. Don't treat them like the enemy. Treat them as honoured guests in your country. So a range of measures, I think, that will help encourage a culture of respect amongst teams, which will then filter down to the teams and I think ensure that the players themselves are respecting each other on the field of play.
Okay. And what about Zimbabwe? Their financial problems are well documented. There's now a plan of action to support them?
So I think the Zimbabwe cricket have done a lot of work in trying to, with the aid of the Zimbabwe government, resolve their financial difficulties. So a plan has been reached in that regard, and having sorted out their liabilities, we can now work with Zimbabwe. The board has decided we've seen what great cricket potential Zimbabwe cricket still has. At the recent qualifier, tremendous support for the games, and there's a cricket culture that we don't want to lose. And with that in mind, now that the financial difficulties have been sorted out, arrangements are in place, we will then work with Zimbabwe cricket, making sure that we can review their governance structures, their playing structures, and their staffing structures to make sure that they are a body that can effectively run cricket in Zimbabwe. So hopefully with our help, we will get them back on track, and they can become and reach the kind of status that they enjoyed a couple of years back.
And just finally, the working party that's been set up to look at the sanctioning of domestic events and player release had their first meeting this week. What's the purpose of that group? What are they trying to achieve?
Well, with the advent of T20 and the number of what we referred to as domestic T20 leagues and events springing up all over the place, not only in full member countries, but also in many of our associate member countries. There's a danger that unless we control things, international cricket itself might be damaged. So the committee is really charged with putting in place a framework that will enable us to protect the value of international cricket, the primacy of international cricket, whilst also recognising the importance that domestic T20 leagues play in promoting the game of cricket, attracting new fans, in a way that so the domestic leagues complement rather than compromise international cricket. So with that in mind, we need to make sure that we do the scheduling well. We need to make sure that we implement some regulations which ensure that the leagues take place in conditions which promote player welfare, implement minimum standards around corruption, doping, all those kinds of things, so that the integrity of cricket is not damaged. And the third aspect of it is making sure that the money generated, or the revenues generated from these leagues, at least a portion of it is going back into grassroots development of the game. So those are the aspects that we're trying to solve. The working group has had some fruitful meetings, and hopefully by October we'll have a set of draft regulations that we can put to the board for their consideration.